The numbers don't lie, Alexandra, my sister Victoria said, her impeccably manicured finger tapping against the spreadsheet. Someone's been siphoning funds, and all the evidence leads straight to you. My pulse quickened as I scanned the figures. This couldn't be happening. I had never tampered with those accounts, never authorized those transfers. Yet, staring back at me was undeniable proof. My digital signature on every suspicious transaction. This is ridiculous, Vic, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. You know I would never. Do I? She interrupted, one perfectly arched brow lifting. The rebellious sister, always challenging the rules, never quite aligning with the family's expectations. Who do you think they'll believe, Alex? The responsible daughter who has devoted herself to the company, or the one who's always been a letdown? My name's Alexandra Chen. At 26, I was on the verge of losing everything I had poured my heart into. My place in our family's tech empire. Not because I was guilty, but because my sister had finally found the perfect way to cast me out. Chen Innovations was our parents' dream, built from nothing through sheer perseverance and ambition. They had turned their modest tech startup into a billion-dollar powerhouse, expecting both Victoria and me to continue their legacy. At least that had been the plan. Why are you doing this? I asked, though deep down, I already knew. Victoria had never liked sharing, whether it was the spotlight, our parents' attention, or most of all, control of the company. She leaned back in her chair, a smug smile playing on her lips. Oh, Alex, you've always been so naive. Did you honestly believe Mom and Dad would let you have an equal say? You with your reckless ideas and appetite for risk? This company doesn't need uncertainty. It needs stability. It needs me. I wanted to scream, to grab her by the shoulders and shake some sense into her. But it wouldn't change anything. Victoria had always been the strategist, the one who could twist any situation in her favor. And now she had executed my downfall flawlessly. They'll investigate, I said, grasping for any hope. They'll uncover the truth. Will they? She rose from her seat, smoothing the fabric of her pristine designer suit. The evidence is quite damning, Alex. Your digital signature, your personal access codes, even a series of rather incriminating emails from your account discussing offshore transactions. It's airtight. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. She hadn't just framed me, she'd been laying the groundwork for this for months, maybe even years. Carefully fabricating a trail, planting evidence, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. When did you become this person? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. We're sisters, Vic. We used to be inseparable. For a brief second, something flickered across her face. Remorse, perhaps, or the ghost of the sister I once knew. But the moment passed, replaced by her usual steely, composed expression. This is business, she said, her tone as cool as ever. And you're a liability. Always pushing for change, disrupting tradition, gambling with what our parents built. Someone has to protect their legacy. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Their legacy? Or your power? She didn't bother answering, instead gathering her things with practiced precision. The board meets tomorrow morning. I'd suggest you start clearing out your office. And Alex? She paused in the doorway, her signature smirk making an appearance. Try not to make a scene. It'll only make things worse for you. Her heels clicked against the polished floor as she walked away, leaving me alone to process what had just happened. Everything I had worked for, every late night, every sacrifice, was slipping away because my own sister had decided I was in her way. That night, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by files and notes, combing through every piece of evidence I could find. But Victoria had covered her tracks too well. Every shred of proof pointed directly to me. My phone vibrated, a text from our father. My office, 7 a.m., before the board meeting. I stared at the message until the words blurred. I already knew what was coming. Dad had always prioritized the company's reputation above all else. He wouldn't risk a scandal, wouldn't let the media get wind of an embezzlement case involving one of his daughters. Victoria had played her cards perfectly. He would give me two choices: resign quietly, maybe with a severance package if he felt generous, or fight it and face public disgrace, and possibly criminal charges. Either way, she would win. I glanced around my home office, my eyes landing on framed photographs on the wall. Graduation day, my first day at the company, childhood vacations where Victoria and I actually looked happy. How had we gone from those carefree sisters to this? Then, something caught my attention, An old picture of Victoria and me at a high school coding competition. We had won first place, side by side, building something innovative. But more than that, the memory brought something crucial to mind. I powered up my laptop, my fingers moving instinctively over the keyboard as an idea took shape. Victoria might be a master manipulator, but I had always been the one who truly understood technology. She had planted evidence, but every digital trail leaves behind fingerprints if you know where to look. For the next 6 hours, I worked relentlessly, digging past the obvious, beyond the carefully orchestrated deception. If she had falsified records, there had to be residual traces somewhere. At 3 a.m., I found it. A minor discrepancy in the timestamps of the modified files. Most people wouldn't have noticed it, but I recognized the flaw. Victoria had used an advanced program to backdate her changes, but she hadn't accounted for daylight savings time. It wasn't much, but it was something. A single loose thread that, if pulled carefully, could unravel her entire scheme. The real question was, could I expose the truth before the board meeting? I worked through the night, following every clue and saving all the evidence I found. By morning, my eyes burned and my hands trembled from too much coffee, but I had something. It wasn't enough to completely clear my name, but it was enough to make people question the case against me. At 6:45 a.m., I gathered my notes and headed to the office. As I walked in, the security guard gave me a strange look. Word had already started spreading. In a company this big, rumors traveled fast. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt longer than ever. Each passing floor brought me closer to the confrontation that would change everything. But as I watched the numbers climb, I felt something besides fear, determination. Victoria had spent months setting me up, thinking I would break and walk away in shame. But she had made one big mistake. She underestimated me. My father's office door was shut when I arrived. Through the frosted glass, I saw two figures, Dad at his desk, Victoria standing beside him. Of course, she was already there, probably making sure her story was the only one he heard. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and knocked. "Come in," Dad called, his voice heavy with disappointment. As I stepped inside, Victoria turned to face me, her usual smug smile in place. She thought she had won. But last night, I realized something important. Sometimes, the best response to betrayal isn't anger, it's patience. Because Victoria had forgotten one thing about me. I wasn't just the rebellious daughter. I was the one who understood technology better than anyone else in the company. And in today's world, that was power. I placed my laptop on Dad's desk, meeting Victoria's gaze head-on. Let her believe I was here to accept defeat. She had no idea what was coming. The room fell silent as I opened my laptop. Victoria stood still, looking confident, but I caught the slight twitch in her jaw, her tell when she was nervous. "Before we continue," I said, keeping my voice steady, "there's something you both need to see." Dad leaned back, looking tired. "Alexandra, we have all the evidence. Your sister showed me everything last night. The board meets in an hour. Let's not drag this out." "The evidence," I said, turning my screen toward them, "isn't what you think it is." Victoria stepped closer, her confidence slipping. "We've already gone through this, Alex. The signatures, the transfers, are fake," I cut in. Very convincing, but not perfect. I pulled up the data I compiled. "Look at these timestamps. Notice anything off?" Dad leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. He might not code anymore, but he still understood enough to see the problem. "These timestamps," he muttered, frowning, "don't line up." I finished. The person who faked this used a backdating program but didn't account for daylight savings time. It's a small mistake, but it appears in every single forged document. Victoria's face turned pale, but she quickly recovered. "This is nonsense. You're just trying to confuse things with technical details." "Am I?" I pulled up another screen. "Let's talk about the access logs. Every one of these fake transfers was made using my login. But check the IP addresses." Dad studied the screen, his expression darkening. "These are all internal company IPs." "Exactly," I said. "Now look at where I was when these transfers happened, in client meetings, out of the building. There are dozens of witnesses who can confirm that. Someone used my credentials to make these transactions from inside the office while I was somewhere else." I worked all night, tracing every clue and saving all the evidence I found. By morning, my eyes burned and my hands shook from too much coffee. I didn't have enough to fully clear my name, but I had enough to make people question the case against me. At 6:45 a.m., I gathered my findings and headed to the office. As I walked in, the security guard gave me a strange look. Word had already started spreading. In a company this big, rumors traveled fast. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt endless. With each passing floor, I grew closer to the confrontation that could change everything. But as I watched the numbers climb, my fear was replaced by something else: determination. Victoria had spent months setting me up, thinking I would crumble and walk away in shame. But she had made one big mistake. She underestimated me. My father's office door was shut when I arrived. Through the frosted glass, I saw two figures: Dad at his desk, Victoria standing beside him. Of course, she was already there, making sure her version of the story was the only one he heard. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and knocked. "Come in," Dad called, his voice heavy with disappointment. As I stepped inside, Victoria turned to face me, her smug smile in place. She thought she had won. But last night, I realized something important. Sometimes, the best response to betrayal isn't anger, it's patience. Because Victoria had forgotten one thing about me. I wasn't just the rebellious daughter. I was the one who understood technology better than anyone else in the company. And in today's world, that gave me power. I placed my laptop on Dad's desk, meeting Victoria's gaze head-on. Let her think I was here to accept defeat. She had no idea what was coming. The room fell silent as I opened my laptop. Victoria stood still, looking confident, but I noticed a small twitch in her jaw, her tell when she was nervous. "Before we continue," I said, keeping my voice steady, "there's something you both need to see." Dad leaned back, looking tired. "Alexandra, we have all the evidence. Your sister showed me everything last night. The board meets in an hour. Let's not drag this out." "The evidence," I said, turning my screen toward them, "isn't what you think it is." Victoria stepped closer, her confidence slipping. "We've already gone through this, Alex. The signatures, the transfers, are fake," I cut in. "They're good, but not perfect." I pulled up my research. "Look at these timestamps. Notice anything off?" Dad leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. He wasn't a programmer, but he still knew enough to see the problem. "These timestamps," he muttered, frowning, "don't match up," I finished. "The person who faked this used a backdating program but didn't account for daylight savings time. It's a small mistake, but it appears in every single forged document." Victoria's face turned pale, but she quickly recovered. "This is nonsense. You're just trying to confuse things with technical details." "Am I?" I pulled up another screen. "Let's talk about the access logs. Every one of these fake transfers was made using my login. But check the IP addresses." Dad studied the screen, his expression darkening. "These are all internal company IPs." "Exactly," I said. "Now, look at where I was when these transfers happened. In client meetings, out of the building. There are dozens of witnesses who can confirm that. Someone used my credentials to make these transactions from inside the office while I was somewhere else." The boardroom was silent as I finished presenting my evidence. Everyone looked between Victoria and me, trying to process what they had just learned. The proof was clear. She had faked documents, altered timestamps, and used a hidden program to frame me. But I wasn't done yet. "What Victoria did was wrong," I said, standing at the head of the table. "But in a way, it showed us a bigger problem. It's not just about fraud. It's about how outdated our systems are." I clicked to the next slide, showing a comparison of our competitors. While we've been stuck fighting among ourselves, other companies have been moving forward. They're using AI, cloud-based systems, and better security. "They're taking our customers." Victoria scoffed, but I saw several board members lean forward, interested. "The irony is," I continued, "the same skills Victoria used to frame me, her knowledge of our security systems, her ability to manipulate our data, prove exactly why we need to change. Our current setup is weak. Our methods are old. And if we don't modernize now, we won't have a company left to protect." "This is ridiculous," Victoria interrupted, standing up. "She's just trying to cover up her—" "Sit down, Victoria," Dad said firmly. "Let your sister finish." I pulled up my proposal, the one Victoria had blocked for months. I've designed a modernization plan for Chen Innovations. It includes stronger security, so this kind of breach never happens again. Cloud-based systems to cut costs by 40%. AI tools that will keep us ahead of our competitors. For the next hour, I explained my vision. With every detail, I saw the board members' expressions shift. Even Victoria went quiet. When I finished, Roger Chen, the board's longest-serving member, spoke first. "This is impressive, Alexandra. But the cost would be recovered in 8 months," I interrupted. "And that's not counting new clients we could attract. This isn't just about updating our systems, it's about survival." Dad slowly stood up, thinking, "I think we've heard enough." First, about the accusations against Alexandra. He turned to Victoria, disappointment clear in his eyes. "Your actions weren't just unethical, they were dangerous. You betrayed your sister and put the company at risk." Victoria's face turned pale. "Dad, the board will vote on your future here," he continued. "But no matter what, you're stepping down as head of security immediately." The room was tense. Victoria had always been the golden child, but now her world was falling apart. "As for Alexandra's plan," Dad went on, "I move that we vote on it now. All in favor of implementing the modernization plan with Alexandra leading as Chief Innovation Officer." Hands went up around the table, one after another. Even Roger Chen raised his hand after a short pause. The vote was unanimous, except for Victoria. "Very well," Dad said, his voice calmer now. "Alexandra, you'll have full control over these changes. Victoria, you'll help with the transition before taking a leave of absence. The board will meet next week to discuss your role in the company." As the meeting ended, board members shook my hand and congratulated me. Victoria stayed in her chair, staring at nothing. I hesitated, then walked up to her. "You know," I said quietly, "I could use your help. You understand our security systems. You know the weaknesses we need to fix." She looked up, confused. "Why would you want my help? After what I did?" "Because you're still my sister," I said simply. "And because you were right about one thing. This company is our legacy. I don't want to destroy it. I want to make it stronger, but I need your help to do it right." She said nothing for a moment. Then slowly she nodded. 3 months later, Chen Innovations was undergoing its biggest transformation ever. The changes weren't easy, but they were working. Our stock price was up, employees were happier, and we had secured 3 major contracts that would have been impossible before. Victoria and I were working together again. Things weren't the same, trust would take time, but we were finding a way to combine her security skills with my innovation. She even started contributing ideas once she saw the benefits of the changes. One night, as we worked late, she looked up from her laptop. "I never apologized," she said suddenly, "for everything I did to you." I set down my coffee, studying her face. The cold, perfect mask she always wore was gone. "Why did you do it?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment. "I was scared," she admitted. "Everything was changing so fast, and your ideas, they felt too risky. I thought if I could stop you, I could keep things the same." "Change is scary," I agreed. "But it's going to happen no matter what. The only choice we have is whether we control it or let it control us." She nodded slowly. "I get that now, and I'm really sorry." I reached across the desk, squeezing her hand. "Just promise me something." "What?" "Next time you think I'm wrong, talk to me first, before you try to frame me for fraud." She actually laughed, a real laugh, like when we were kids. "Deal." As we went back to work, I thought about how far we had come. Victoria had tried to take me down, but in doing so, she had forced both of us to face the truth about ourselves, about each other, and about what our company really needed. Sometimes betrayal can lead to something better, if you're willing to learn from it. Kin Innovations was evolving into something new, something our parents had never imagined. But the most important change wasn't in the technology, it was in us. 2 sisters, finally working together, using our strengths to build something better than either of us could have done alone. As the sun set over the city, I smiled. Victoria had tried to push me out of the company, but instead she had helped me become exactly what the company needed. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's proving you were right all along.